Hello everybody and welcome back to Buckeye Politics. It's me, your favorite Ohioan. Today we're going to be doing a pretty quick video on the Arizona governor and Senate elections. Recent polls show Republican nominee for governor Kari Lake and Republican nominee for Senate Blake Masters doing very well. So let's get right into the video. If you want to see more like this, please be sure to like and subscribe. We'll be covering elections all the way up to the midterms. And we're going to start by looking at the polls in the great state of Arizona for the governor race, where Republican nominee Kari Lake currently has a 4-point lead over Democrat nominee Katie Hobbs, according to the Trafalgar Group, which is technically a Republican internal. This is true, but they do tend to be one of the most accurate pollsters. And in Arizona, they did overestimate Trump by a tad, but they got his actual percent of the vote correct. So they had Trump winning, but so they were wrong in terms of who won the state, but in terms of the amount of the vote that they had Trump getting, they're completely spot on. So when it comes to polling how Republican candidates will do, Trafalgar is pretty spot on. And the fact that they have Kari Lake at 50% makes it so Katie Hobbs is virtually impossible for her to win. If you're at 50%, it is virtually impossible for the other candidate to beat you at that point, if that's the percent of the vote that you get, considering third parties and all that good stuff. And this is actually a surge from back earlier. They pulled this race back in end of August, right after the primary, and they had Kari Lake at 47% to Katie Hobbs' 46%. Now they have Kari Lake at 50% and Katie Hobbs at 46%. Now, Kari Lake is a pretty good candidate for the state of Arizona. She's run a perfect campaign. She's been attacked by the media and slandered by the media all over, but she is a former news anchor for the Phoenix area. She knows how to deal with attacks from the media, attacks from Democrats online. She knows how to handle controversy and criticism, and she knows how to deal with the media in a way that is good for her campaign. And she has done a perfect job of that. You know, she's been confronted with very hard questions about the election, about some of her more conservative stances, especially for a more moderate state like Arizona, which Arizona is still a Republican-leaning state, but is more of a moderate to, I guess you'd say, center-right state. So some of her positions, such as on the election, may not be very popular with the majority of people in Arizona. And it's because of that, Democrats like Katie Hobbs herself and the media have really called her out on that, and she has handled these questions perfectly. She said, well, you know, there's clips all over it on Twitter, and she has handled these attacks perfectly. Not to mention, Katie Hobbs, who is the Democrat nominee, she's the current Secretary of State of Arizona, she has refused to debate Kari Lake. So Kari Lake is basically just going to cruise to victory. When candidates do refuse to debate, 9 times out of 10, that usually means that they lose, because that's a perfect attack ad for the candidate who does agree to debate. We saw that happen in Pennsylvania with Dr. Oz. It was basically going all in with Fetterman because Fetterman refused to debate. He finally did agree, but for a while there, you know, Oz was really hammering that down, and it was hurting Fetterman politically. So even though, you know, he's probably not in the best of health, he had to at least agree to the debate, or else he was going to get crushed politically, because that was just a political tool that Oz could just run away with. We saw the same thing in Georgia in 2020, where David Perdue, the Republican senator, he had a pretty rough debate performance and then just refused to come back. And John Ossoff took full advantage of that, and because of that, he managed to win in the state of Georgia. So, especially in recent elections, candidates refusing to debate usually comes back and bites them. And so, Katie Hobbs refusing to debate, Kari Lake ran a perfect attack line on Katie Hobbs refusing to debate, and because of that, it does look like that is helping Kari Lake. She's surged with undecideds, with the more moderate and libertarian voters who, you know, the more center-right types are swinging hard in Kari Lake's direction. Kari Lake is actually doing pretty well in terms of fundraising, and much better than Blake Masters, which we're going to look at. And Kari Lake has pretty much united the Republican base, the more moderate voters, and the more Trumpian voters, which she's done a perfect job of that. And because of that, I think she's going to win by a pretty solid margin. I mean, Trafalgar already has her surging. Emerson has the race in a dead heat. So basically, the two best pollsters in America have this race pretty much at least Kari Hobbs winning, or she's in a not Katie Hobbs. The two best pollsters in America have Republican Kari Lake either leading by 4% or in a dead heat, and both have her surging from past polls. So I really do think that Kari Lake's in a very good position right now. As you can see here in our Real Clear Politics, it's a dead heat, which they tend to be more accurate than 538. And so because of that, I do think Kari Lake is in a good position, and this is a great news for Republicans across the country, because Kari Lake, you know, there's a lot of questions about her electability, but she has proved everybody wrong, and she is polling very well. So that's good news for the GOP in Arizona. We're going to go look at the Senate race in Arizona between incumbent Democrat Mark Kelly and Republican nominee Blake Masters. This is probably the more competitive of the two races. Most people expected Kari Lake to win the governor race, although, you know, some people said that she might make she being a little bit more conservative would make the race a little bit interesting, but no, most people agreed that the Senate election would be closer than the governor election. So this is probably the more competitive race. This is a race that Democrats will probably do better in. Blake Masters is a venture capitalist. He's been promoted by Peter Thiel. He's a more, and I guess you'd say populist, more nationalist conservative, kind of like a Donald Trump type, and J.D. Vance type. Him and Vance are good friends, actually. And it's because of that a lot of people have said, well, Blake Masters probably isn't the best candidate for Arizona. I mean, Arizona is a pretty suburban, center-right, moderate state. To nominate a Trumpian guy like Blake Masters, who's a little bit more conservative on the issues, a little bit more outspoken, probably isn't the best idea. That said, Blake Masters, similar to Kari Lake, is a very smart guy. He knows how to deal with the media's attacks. He knows how to frame his positions perfectly for a state like Arizona, and because of that, he's made this race very competitive. I mean, the two most recent pollsters from Trafalgar and Emerson, which are the two most accurate pollsters in America, both have him down by only 2 percentage points. And yes, he is down. He certainly is not the favorite as of now, although I think in the end he will be, but as of now, he's still definitely down. But he's doing very well, all things considered. I mean, Mark Kelly is a household name across the country. He is an astronaut. He's an American hero. He's an incumbent senator. Mark Kelly is a national hero. He's a very well-known candidate, and he's relatively popular, and has this kind of like moderate appeal, and he's done a decent job at maintaining that moderate appeal. He's just certainly been hurting himself recently, but for the longest time, he was a very popular senator, and he did a good job maintaining his more moderate label. That said, Blake Masters has perfectly exploited places Mark Kelly is not very good on, such as his voting record, voting 100% with Joe Biden, and abortion up, even supporting late-term abortion, and basically no limits. So Blake Masters has perfectly made attack lines against Mark Kelly, and Mark Kelly is absolutely obliterating Blake Masters when it comes to funding, but Blake Masters is a very smart guy. He's used his funding very well, and even though he doesn't have a whole lot of money and a whole lot of advertisements going, he has done a good job making attacks and campaigning when he needs to. And so because of that, Blake Masters is polling very well. Mark Kelly, for an incumbent senator, you usually want to be above 50%. I've said this before. All the polls really have him below 50%. 47, 47, 45, 48. Echelon Insights has him up at 52, but that poll is bullshit. I'm calling it right now. They use registered voters, and they have Blake Masters at 37%. That poll is BS. Calling it right now. So if you look at the pollsters that actually mean something, Trafalgar has him at 48, then 47. Blake Masters is surging. Trafalgar back in August, they had Mark Kelly up 48, 44. And they have him at 47, 45, and that is perfectly in line with Emerson College, which, like I said, is another very accurate pollster, which also has Mark Kelly only leading Blake Masters by 2. So that tells me that if you look at the more accurate pollsters, Blake Masters is definitely polling very well and making this race more competitive than people thought he would. A lot of people online and all over are saying Blake Masters is too far right to win. No one knows who this guy is. He's not going to win. He can't run a good campaign. Mark Kelly's too popular. But Blake Masters has perfectly used his tools. He's perfectly placed his attack ads. He's run a perfect campaign thus far, and because of that, he is making this race very interesting. Now, sure, like I said, Mark Kelly does have a very narrow lead, but if Blake Masters continues this surge and does decently in the debates, which I think he will, I mean, Blake Masters he's a very skilled speaker, a very talented debater, as we saw in the Republican primaries and his appearances at Trump rallies. I do think that Blake Masters is probably going to end up winning this race by a very slim margin and upsetting Mark Kelly. So with that, thank you for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like and subscribe for more.